Y News with Angelo Castro III, William Theo, and Darlene Basingan.
ASEAN spirit soar above all frontiers and boundaries. ASEAN spirit soar to greater heights and victory.
Good evening. The Chinese government has committed 150 million Chinese yuan during a successful bilateral meeting today. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
After the conclusion of the 31st ASEAN Summit and related meetings, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang stayed in the Philippines for an official visit and bilateral meeting with President Rodrigo Duterte today. High-ranking officials of both governments sat down for an expanded bilateral meeting. President Duterte thanked Premier Li for the assistance China provided in resolving Marawi crisis, particularly the donated arms used in running after the terrorists. The two governments also inked 14 agreements to enhance cooperation on economy, infrastructure, countering terrorism and illegal drugs, defense industry, and others. China also committed huge amount of money for the rehabilitation of Marawi.
The Chinese government will provide 150 million RMB yuan of grants for the rebuilding and improvement of livelihood in Marawi to demonstrate the support of the Chinese people. We have full confidence that under your leadership, Mr. President, and the leadership of your government, the rebuilding of Marawi will be completed at a very early date, and the local people will embrace an even better life.
This visit also allows me the opportunity to personally extend my gratitude to the Chinese government for its valuable support of the ASEAN chairmanship of the Philippines this year and its assistance to our country's build infrastructure initiatives. It's looking for the welfare of the people who live and work in China, its benevolent assistance in providing military equipment to the AFP, Armed Forces of the Philippines, and its aid to the rehabilitation and reconstruction of Marawi City.
Aside from this, a ceremonial launching was done for the bridges to be built by China in Manila and Makati, as well as the Drug Abuse Treatment Rehabilitation Center in Sarangani and Agusan del Sur. Premier Li said the Chinese government is hoping that the good relationship of China will be maintained. The Chinese premier wants to have 10-year cooperation plan to make sure the friendly relations between the Philippines and China will forge ahead.
My suggestion is that our two sides may sit down together to discuss and formulate cooperation plans in these areas lasting for the next 5 or even to 10 years to take forward our cooperation in these specific fields, to send out a message to people of the two countries as well as the international community that China-Philippine relationship will continuously go forward and the people-to-people friendship between us will be further strengthened.
Li is the first Chinese premier who visited Manila and conducted bilateral meeting with the Philippine president in 10 years' time. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
Member states of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, will prioritize next the creation of a bilateral agreement for the protection of migrant workers. Here's why from Ray Pelayo.
After the ASEAN heads of state signed a consensus pushing for and ensuring the protection of the rights of migrant workers, Southeast Asian countries will now need to create a bilateral agreement on the matter. According to Labor and Employment Secretary Silvestre Bello III, they will detail on the bilateral agreement how each ASEAN country should treat migrant workers like overseas Filipino workers or OFW. Based on the figures of DOLE, about 250,000 OFWs are working in ASEAN countries. Many of them are in Singapore and Malaysia.
This will now give reason for all the member states to come up with bilateral agreements among each other, so that these agreements will now provide the protection and promotion which will be legally binding.
The provisions in the agreement might include giving days off to the migrant workers, giving them the right to visit their relatives and whether or not their employers should take their passports.
That would be a major provision na huwag naman yung hawakan yung passport ng OFW. At the very least, ipahawak sa labor attaché.
The Trade Union Congress of the Philippines Associated Labor Union or TOCP-ALU is glad with the said agreement created for the migrant workers. However, TOCP-ALU spokesman Alan Tanhusay says ASEAN countries should give standard salaries and benefits to migrant workers.
Ibig sabihin, kung saang bansa ang may pinakamurang sahod, pinakamababang benepisyo at social protection insurance ang binibigay sa mga manggagawa, doon pupunta yung mga negosyante sa ASEAN.
According to Secretary Bello, delegates already discussed the matter in this year's ASEAN and will be tackled anew in 2018 during the ASEAN chairmanship of Singapore. Ray Pilayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Environmental groups vowed to monitor the steps authorities will take to bring tons of garbage shipment in Philippine waters back to Canada. Grace Casing will tell us why.
Environmental groups are not satisfied with the promise of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to take action to bring its garbage back to Canada that was shipped to the Philippines. According to Ban Toxics organization, they will monitor the steps of Canadian and Filipino authorities will take, noting the tons of garbage should be returned to its origin.
Hindi pwedeng porket binitiwan niya yung salitang ganun. Okay na yun. Kailangan makita talaga natin na naglalayag ulit yung barko pabalik na ng Canada. Ang request lang namin, mabigyan na ng proper mechanism.
The garbage has been in waters of Subic for 4 years now. The environmental group says the health of residents in Subic is becoming more at risk.
In terms of human health, pwede tayong magkaroon ng problem sa respiratory system or digestive kapag ka na-contaminate yung kinakain natin o yung air natin. Sa environment, pwedeng makontaminate yung surroundings nun. Tatagas ulit siya dun sa dagat. At syempre yung mga tao kumakain ng mga isda na galing dun sa dagat.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources Environmental Management Bureau initially says there are only 26 of the 55 containers remaining in the country from the initial shipment. Those behind the shipment is now facing complaints for violating the Republic Act 9003 or the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act and the 1995 Basel Convention on the Transboundary Movement of Hazardous Waste.
We have filed and the criminal case is ongoing, so I cannot really share much of what will happen. But there's already a court order to return it to the Canada.
Grace Cassin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Meanwhile, the ASEAN Security Task Force expresses gratitude to the personnel of the Philippine National Police and the public for their cooperation for the successful conduct of the ASEAN Summit in the country. Abby Santa Ines tells us why.
The recently concluded 31st ASEAN Summit in the country has been considered a huge success. With this, the ASEAN Security Task Force thanks the police and the public for their cooperation.
The key was everyone was doing his or her part with the local government units manifesting their cooperation and assistance in providing all the necessary logistical requirements and augmenting the resources.
Department of Interior and Local Government or DILG Officer in Charge Undersecretary Catalino Cui claims delegates like those from the United States and Malaysia are satisfied with the security the Philippines laid out for the ASEAN Summit.
Yung US-American counterpart natin sa security, they're very thankful for the support and assistance na ibinigay nila in securing their leaders. And then kanina when I sent off the Malaysian Prime Minister back to Kuala Lumpur this morning. He was very thankful for a very nice and smooth and secured meeting, particularly sa security.
Cui says it will not happen if not for the cooperation of all government agencies, the public, and even the private sector.
And mindful of the huge losses that they may incur, demonstrated their corporate social responsibility by stepping forward to give back to the country and show their support.
The DILG-OIC also apologized to the public over the traffic congestion they experienced due to road closures. Despite the inconveniences experienced by motorists, Koy says the Philippines was able to show a good image to its neighbors. He notes this means more employment opportunities and thus improvement of the Philippine economy. Meanwhile, no crime was recorded during the 3-day ASEAN summit. After the conduct of the major event, the cops assigned to provide security to the visiting heads of the states have returned to their mother units. Abby Centenes, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The abduction of New People's Army or NPA of 2 policemen in Surigao del Norte will affect the peace talks between the communist group and the Philippine government. Government Chief Negotiator Secretary Silvestre Bello III says they are waiting for the proper time before resuming the negotiation. However, Bello notes if the other party is conducting such an illegal act, it might be impossible to continue the peace talks.
Kailangan yung environment must be there. Environment that will allow a peaceful negotiation. Hindi yung nag-usap kayo, nagbabarilan kayo sa likod, gano'n.
The 2 policemen were abducted on Monday in Barangay Badas, Placer in Surigao del Norte. They were identified as PO2 Alfredo de Gamon Jr. and PO2 John Paul Duterte. Both were assigned in the Placer Municipal Station. Personnel of the Police Regional Office and Armed Forces of the Philippines are conducting hot pursuit operation to rescue the kidnapped policemen. After the 31st ASEAN Summit and related meetings, United States President Donald Trump announced Washington's donation of billions of pesos for the programs of the Duterte administration. In a statement released by the White House, the U.S. government will donate an additional amount of $14.3 million or almost 750 million pesos in aid for the fast recovery and rehabilitation of the war-torn Marawi City and its 360,000 displaced residents. Washington will also donate $85 million for the counter-terror ISM-related equipment of the Philippines, training and support for its armed forces. It will also give $2 million for the Duterte administration's campaign against illegal drugs. It can be noted the anti-drug campaign of the Duterte administration draws criticism from various sectors and international leaders because of the human rights abuses Philippine authorities allegedly committed in the name of the drug war.
Traffic in Metro Manila, particularly in EDSA, is now back to normal. Joanano will tell us why.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority has removed the orange plastic barriers in the whole stretch of the northbound lane of EDSA that was used as ASEAN lane. The MMDA trucks hold the orange barriers and temporarily place them along the center islands and on emergency base.
With our limited resources, lalo-lalo na yung mga trucks na available na mag-haul yan at saka yung pinaglalagyan niya na hindi naman sa MMDA lang, napakalayo. No? So ngayon, it will really take time.
They prioritize the areas of Magallanes and Santolan where traffic builds up fast. The MMDA targets to haul all these barriers early morning tomorrow. Meanwhile, the agency is now preparing for the start of traffic buildup tomorrow as workers go back to work after the long holiday. The MMDA once again assures the strict implementation of nose-in, nose-out policy in bus terminals along EDSA to prevent an even heavier buildup of traffic.
Ayaw namin magkaroon ng gridlock dyan kung pipila sila dyan. So as much as possible, we are encouraging them to use the back doors. At kung magkasabay-sabay, huwag silang pipila sa EDSA, umikot na lang sila.
Violators of the said policy will be meted out with penalties for obstruction and disregarding traffic signs with 1,000 peso fine. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
Next on Y News. The public may expect faster internet connection with the completion of Luzon bypass infrastructure in the year 2019.
The DOTr studies possible installation of platform screen door in train stations for passenger safety after a woman caused her arm in a train accident.
And FIVOLCS warn residents to avoid entering the 4-kilometer danger zone as authorities raise alert level 2 on Mount Canlaon in Negros Occidental.
Y News will be right back. affordable and accessible internet connection is expected in the country in the year 2019. Leslie Longbowen tells us why.
The Philippines has one of the slowest and most expensive internet in Asia Pacific. Singapore has the fastest internet at 156.67 Mbps for $33.99, while the Philippines ranks second to the last with a speed of 13.41 Mbps for $40.96. To solve the problem, the Department of Information and Communications Technology or DICT and the Basis Conversion and Development Authority or BCDA teamed up with Facebook for a project. Facebook will construct the cable system that will connect Luzon to internet hubs in America and Asia. BCDA will be the one to construct the Luzon bypass infrastructure connecting two cable landing stations. Meanwhile, the ICT is in charge of the operation and maintenance of the project. Upon completion of the project, Facebook will provide a spectrum of 2 terabytes that will significantly help expand the capacity available for the government's connectivity programs.
This will give a very big benefit to our people, no? Itong 2 terabytes na makukuha natin, talaga hong mabiging mabilis ang ating internet sa mga free public Wi-Fi.
The intent of this project is to provide diversity from the Luzon Strait, and as OIC Rio has indicated, this has been a trouble spot for submarine cables for a long time. By coming through the Philippines and utilizing this bypass infrastructure, we're significantly increasing the diversity and resilience of the global internet infrastructure, and particularly in the Asia Pacific.
DICT says Philippines targets to have one of the fastest internet connections in Asia Pacific upon the completion of the project.
Pag na-implement to, talagang tataas tayo. We'll try for the at least third or fourth.
Meanwhile, the ICT and BCDA did not disclose the cost of the project. The Luzon Bypass Infrastructure Project is targeted to be finished by 2019. Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
The Department of Labor and Employment or DOLE investigates the alleged anomaly in the application of Overseas Employment Certificate or OECs in the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration or POEA. It can be recalled DOLE initially suspended for 15 days the release of OECs to prevent what it claims as the existing corruption in the agency. DOLE Secretary Silvestre Bello III says they will implement new guidelines in POEA to ensure that OACs or OECs will not be used for illegal recruitment activities.
And we are coming up with a major revamp in POEA to see to it that the issue of corruption is addressed.
The Department of Transportation or DOTr is studying the possibility of setting up a platform screen door at the MRT Ayala station after an accident which cost a lady passenger her arm. Here's why from Joanano.
24-year-old Angeline Fernando is currently recovering at the Makati Medical Center after doctors successfully reattached her severed arm. Based on the investigation of the Department of Transportation or DOTr, at 2:30 in the afternoon yesterday, Angeline alighted at the Ayala station from the MRT Taft station. Angeline felt dizzy when she disembarked from the platform. Witnesses said she even bumped her head on a post and began walking unsteadily. Several seconds later, she fell on the platform near the railway tracks while the train was about to move. Angeline accidentally placed her right arm on the coupler that connects the train coaches. A doctor who was in the train with Angeline was on the scene when the incident took place. The doctor immediately returned to the platform to help the victim.
Inakit nila sa platform, tapos po, sinek ko po, nagpakilala po ako sa mga guards, nagbigay po ako ng instructions na tumawag na ambulance, kumuha ng stretcher, yung tourniquet po para yung pantali. Tapos may nag-abot po ng cardigan niya, and then yung isang police po na naka-assign doon, inabot niya din yung belt niya.
Undersecretary Cesar Chavez cites relatives and friends of the victim, saying Angeline is prone to dizzy spells.
May mga pagkakataon na nahihilo siya. Pag maraming crowd, pag maraming tao, lumalabas siya sapagat nahirapan siyang huminga. May isang insidente rin kasama ng mga kaibigan na muntik ng mahimatay, namutla, isinugod din sa ospital, ang dahilan ay low blood.
The DOTr vows to shoulder the medical expenses of Angeline. Transportation officials reminds the public to take extra caution to prevent a similar accident from happening again.
Ang panawagan namin sa mga pasahero, kung kayo po ay buntis, kung kayo po ay senior citizen, kung kayo po ay may karamdaman, regardless kung anong edad ninyo, maaari hubang sabihin ninyo sa security guard na bago kayo sumakay na ako ay may karamdaman, bababa ako sa Cubao, halimbawa, nakasakay ako sa ganitong bagon, pakialalayan ako ng gwardya.
Meanwhile, the Transportation Department is studying the possibility of installing platform screen door at all stations of MRT, particularly in Ayala Station as its platform is too narrow. The DOTr admits doing so is not easy as it requires more time and additional funding. Joanna, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
The Commission on Human Rights has still yet to determine whether the Philippine National Police has committed any violation of laws on its use of a sonic device in dispersing violent rallies in the recently concluded ASEAN summit. Monokson will tell us why.
Republic Act 880, or an act ensuring the free exercise by the people of their right peaceably to assemble and petition the government for other purposes, provides that the Philippine National Police must not use tear gas, smoke grenades, water cannons, and any anti-riot device unless the rallies themselves resort to violence. In the dispersal of the militant groups during the ASEAN summit, aside from using water cannons, police authorities had no other alternative but to use a sonic device in dispersing the rallies. The Commission on Human Rights says the agency is currently investigating the case. It, however, adds that they have not seen any violation yet on the part of the police for choosing such action.
Bukod pa naman doon sa paglabag ng batas, may nakita tayong mga dapat i-improve in terms of policy. Magkakain tayo ng rekomendasyon sa pamahalaan para mapabuti or ma-revisit yung mga metodolohiya at mga proseso na meron tayo.
An ENT specialist says the use of the said device will not affect major parts of the body other than the hearing. Dr. Gil Vicente adds that the use of tear gas is much worse. Nevertheless, a sonic device is harmful if it is directly used on people.
Maski isang segundo lang yun, meron ng effect sa'yo eh. Usually, ang mangyayari sa'yo, pwede kang may headache, pwedeng may dizziness, orientation.
The PNP says to disperse the rallies, the sound level of the sonic device they use, an LRAD 1000 model, was from 120 to 140 decibels. This is much higher than the normal sound level of 60 decibels in usual conversation, 90 decibels from street noise, and 110 decibels of noise created by firecrackers. NCRPO Chief Police Director Oscar Albayalde says the purchase and use of sonic devices are in accordance with the law.
Matagal na yan, ginagawa na lang ng issue yan. Napakatagal na po niyan, taon na ang binilang dyan. No? Yun yung matagal ng equipment yan, ng, particularly ng NCRPO because of these rallies. Ever since panahon pa ni Presidente Arroyo, panahon ni Presidente Aquino.
The militant groups, on the other hand, maintain that they will bring the issue to the Congress. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
ASEAN spirit soar above all boundaries and boundaries. ASEAN spirit soar to greater heights and victory.
Although the government guarantees that the country has greatly benefited from the ASEAN summit, it says such will not be felt immediately, but instead, gradually. Victor Cosare will tell us why.
World leaders praised the Philippines on how it hosted the ASEAN summit.
I'd also like to thank Philippines also for its chairmanship achievements under each of the 3 ASEAN pillars, including the finalization of a framework for the code of conduct of parties in the South China.
Several significant agreements were also signed in the summit, including the ASEAN Declaration on the Protection and Promotion of the Rights of Migrant Workers, which will benefit more than 200,000 Filipino working in other ASEAN countries. Also agreed upon was the crafting of the Code of Conduct in the West Philippine Sea, which is expected to assuage the tension in the disputed waters. In the program Get It Straight with Daniel Razon, Presidential Communications Office Assistant Secretary Chris Ablan stresses that the country has benefited a lot in the ASEAN Summit.
Did we get our money's worth?
Yes. Yes. Nakakain ba ang ASEAN? Yan ang tanong sa atin. Nakakain ba ang ASEAN?
Asin, nakakain.
Okay, so hindi nakakain yung ASEAN, pero yung produkto ng ASEAN pwedeng makain natin. Okay, so halimbawa, sa larangan po ng ekonomiya, pag bumibili po tayo ng bagay-bagay sa palengke o sa supermarket, di niyo po ba na-notice na medyo bumaba na po ang presyo ng mga produkto na galing sa ibang ASEAN member state po? So malaking binaba.
Smuggled yun.
Hindi po smuggled yun.
Akala mo smuggled, hindi pa na. Hindi smuggled na.
Hindi po smuggled yun.
Okay.
Dala po yun ng ASEAN. Kasi nagkaroon po ng agreement ng 10 na alam mo yun, yung free trade natin, wala na pong papatawan ng tax. Kaya mababa na siya.
The cut down on airfare going to and fro ASEAN member states is also a result of the summit. Ablan stresses that although guaranteed, other benefits from the ASEAN summit will not be immediately felt.
Hindi nyo nararamdaman overnight. It takes time. The way everything is cheaper now is as a result of collaboration such as ASEAN.
The government spendings for the ASEAN summit has totaled to more than 15 billion pesos. The Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO, however, clarifies that the said fund has not been used only for the week's gathering of leaders, but also since the beginning of the country's preparations, wherein several ASEAN meetings has also taken place. Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Experts believe China's move to finally agree on a code of conduct in the South China Sea is already late and useless. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
No less than President Rodrigo Duterte himself announced that China has agreed to work on a code of conduct in the South China Sea. The code will set rules and prohibited acts in the disputed territory. But experts say this is long time coming, since ASEAN and China already signed a declaration in 2002 for its drafting.
Kung tutusin, 2002 pa yun pag-usapan. And it's now 2017. Ganun katagal.
This would have been good 5 years ago, before the reclamations. That would have stopped the reclamation of China. But now they're there, it's already moot and academic.
ASEAN member states and China agreed in 2002 to refrain from inhabiting uninhabited islands, reefs, and other features in the disputed area. But Batong Bakal says it was proven how China could not be stopped from building artificial islands.
Ang maasahan mo lang bali doon sa Code of Conduct na yon, siguro na hindi na tayo magkaroon ng paraan para hindi na tayo hinaharas sa dagat, no? Yung mga paggamit ng water cannon, yung paggamit ng mga harassment tactics. I think that's the most that we can hope for dito sa Code of Conduct.
Former National Security Advisor Roy Logoles warns the Code of Conduct will favor China as the things that it seeks to prohibit, such as reclamation and construction of artificial islands, were already completed by the Chinese.
That code of conduct will simply protect the fait accompli of China, and it will prohibit us from conducting our own activities to maintain and upgrade our facilities in the Spratlys in the South China Sea. In other words, it may work against us.
He also doubts China will honor the code.
Kung yung mismong UNCLOS hindi nila ginagalang, yung mismong ruling ng arbitral tribunal, hindi nila ginagalang, ito pa.
Batong Bakal says the Philippines seem to have accepted what the Chinese have done and only wants to avoid conflict with the creation of rules in the South China Sea. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Meanwhile, an economist notes the Philippines' hosting of the ASEAN summit has a huge contribution to the Philippines. On the other hand, a research group claims the ASEAN summit does no good to ordinary Filipinos. Rajel Adora will tell us why.
Ibon Foundation claims the conduct of the Association of Southeast Asian Nation or ASEAN Summit in the Philippines did not yield any positive effect. The group says the conduct of ASEAN summits in the past years did not give positive contributions to the Philippine economy. Ibon Foundation Executive Director Sunny Africa explains the yearly summit benefits other ASEAN countries only that uses the Philippines labor force for their own interests.
Bumuhos talaga yung foreign investment dito sa Pilipinas, bunga ng pagpapaluwag nga ng ASEAN countries. Pero nakapagtaka, itong Pilipinas, sa halip na lumago ang ating ekonomiya at na manufaktura at makapaglikha ng trabaho, paurong pa tayo sa nakaraang 5 dekada.
Africa says the manufacturing sector of the Philippines slows down and there are fewer jobs created every year. In the period of 1966, the country was able to produce 500,000 to 600,000 new jobs. However, since 2010, Ibon Foundation notes the number of jobs the country creates does not go beyond 600,000 every year. Meanwhile, an economist sees nothing wrong with the Philippines hosting of ASEAN Summit. Ronilo Balbieran describes the conduct of ASEAN Summit in the country as perfect timing. Balbieran explains although the Philippine economy grows slowly, it still has the potential to keep pace with other countries because of its strong labor force.
Ang ASEAN ay may 639 million ng buong 10 bansa na yan. Ang EU ay 500 million plus lang. Nauna lang yung yaman nila. Sa dami ng tao na yan, sino dyan ang may pinakamalaking percentage ng mga matatalino at mahahasang mga empleyado? Mga professionals. Pilipino.
In 2016, Filipino migrant workers contributed 20.37% to the Philippine economy compared to the negative ratings of its neighbors. Balbieran explained that with Philippines' stronger ties within the region because of its hosting of the ASEAN Summit, the net income of the country will rise, thanks to the remittance of overseas Filipino workers or OFW. However, he notes concern to capitalist countries stay. This is why Balbieran notes government subsidies remain important.
Nasa gobyerno natin yun kung paano nila imo-moderate, paano nila babantayan yung kasakiman ng sobrang kapitalismo. Pero kapag walang kapitalismo, wala ka ring kasing maayos na motibasyon o dahilan kung para yumaman.
Rogel Adora, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
In other news, PHIVOLCS, or the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, raises the alert level on Mount Canlaon in Negros Occidental to 2 or moderate level of unrest. PHIVOLCS recorded 279 volcanic earthquakes in the past 24 hours. Since August 18, 2017, the number of volcanic earthquakes in Mount Canlaon increases every day. PHIVOLCS say, although the volcano spews no ashes, it has frequent movements which may result into phreatic eruptions. With the alert levels 2 raised, the agency advises the local government units of Negros Occidental and the public to avoid entering the 4-kilometer radius permanent danger zone of the volcano. Various government agencies are now preparing for the return of several Marawi City residents to their hometown this week. Rogel Adora tells us why.
About 10 villages of Marawi City have been declared safe for returning residents who fled the war last May. These villages are Barangay Bacolod Chico, Dayawan, Lumbak Toros, Pindolonan, Poona Marantao, Tuka, Toros, Amito, Fort, and Bangon. The second batch of the displaced residents will go back to their hometown this week. With this, the local government of Marawi City and other government agencies are preparing for the return of the residents to their hometown.
Ay magkaroon ng tubig. Ang hirap po kasi lalo na po dito sa Sampo, ang majority po ng source nila ng tubig nang gagaling dun sa lake. Ang sabi namin, magiging problema kasi baka po inumin nila yung tubig. Baka mamaya naka-survive sila doon sa hindi naman sila makasurvive sa mga diarrhea.
The International Committee of the Red Cross also cleaned up the biggest reservoir in Marawi City so returning residents could use it again.
Pagkatapos po nating linisin ang loob, sisiguraduhin po natin na wala na pong mga mikrobyo para po pwede na naman siyang imbaka ng panibagong tubig, and then it will already be operational and provide water for the Marawi returnees.
The Philippine Red Cross lends aid equipment to the province of Lanao del Sur like water tank, mixer, payloader, ambulance, and a hot meals truck as part of preparations for the returning residents. Each village will install water bladder or hydration pack to ensure the residents have clean drinking water. Rogel Adora, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, and the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, or BFAR, confiscated boxes of fish in the seized part of Barangay Ungos and Barangay Poblacion 61 Real in Quezon Province yesterday. The various kinds of fish confiscated from an abandoned motor banca is estimated to have a market value of 36,000 pesos. The examination conducted by BFAR in Real, Quezon, confirms the fish were captured through the use of so-called blast fishing. Authorities immediately brought the confiscated fish to the office of the Municipal Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Council.
The Department of Justice, or DOJ, has amended one of the 3 cases it filed against Senator Laila de Lima in connection with her alleged involvement in the illegal drug trade inside the New Bilibid prison. De Lima was originally indicted for illegal drug trading before the Muntinlupa Regional Trial Court, Branch 205, but the DOJ changed the case to conspiracy to commit illegal drug trading. This is still for the alleged conspiracy between De Lima and Jose Adrian Dera to collect 3 million pesos and 4 vehicles from inmate Peter Ko to aid her campaign during the 2016 senatorial elections. De Lima's lawyers oppose the amendment, saying it violates the right of an accused to be notified of the charges against her. Also, this could not simply be allowed, as the court has already issued an arrest warrant for the illegal drug trading case, and arraignment was already set on November 24. The CIDG Anti-Transnational Crime Unit nabs a Filipino-Korean recruiter. Monokson will tell us why.
The CIDG Anti-Transnational Crime Unit operatives has captured Jeneline Betacura, a 31-year-old Filipino-Korean national from Lanao del Norte, for alleged illegal recruitment. Conducted the entrapment operation after receiving complaints from 3 individuals who claimed to have been victimized by the suspect, enticing them to work in Incheon, South Korea.
Pinangakuan sila ng trabaho sa Korea at ang trabahong yon ay merong kapalit na napakataas na sahod, 150,000 to 200,000 monthly. No? At ang trabaho nila sa Incheon, Korea ay bilang mga factory workers.
The suspect purportedly collected 45,000 to 260,000 pesos from the victims for the immediate processing of their papers in going to Korea. They said Betacura promised that they can leave the country by May 2017. But when the time came and they failed to leave, they became suspicious and immediately went to the CIDG and the POEA, where they found out that Betacura is an illegal recruiter.
Kasi pinaasa niya talaga kami na makaalis. Oo. Ano pa, last year, nagkikita kami doon sa Cebu. O doon ang ano namin. Kinukulit niya talaga ako, kinukulit niya ako nga, mag-apply ka dito. Grabe talagang babae yan. Niloloko niya kami, pinapunta niya kami dito lahat dito sa Manila.
An initial investigation, the suspect is now a South Korean citizen. Her victims were mostly from Lanao del Norte and nearby provinces in Mindanao.
Yung mga nag-complain po kasi, nag-back out na yan sila. Nag-back out po sila, nag-aantay po sila ng refund nila. Hindi sila alis kasi nag-back out naman na yan sila eh.
The authorities also discovered the other victims of Betacura who are now staying in a house in Laguna and are allegedly just waiting for their flight schedules going to Korea as promised by the suspect. Betacura will be facing illegal recruitment in large-scale and estafa cases. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Coming up on Y News. Darbandikhan Dam suffers cracks after the magnitude 7.3 Iran-Iraq earthquake, but authorities assure the situation remains controllable.
More than 20 people suffer injuries after trains collide in Singapore.
And foamy artworks of adorable pets enchant customers in Kaohsiung, Taiwan.
More from Y News after this break.
Alongside the ASEAN Music Festival 2017, some ASEAN artists were overwhelmed to be able to perform on board the Wish 107 bus. Here's why from Leslong Bowen.
In a special occasion, singers and artists from other Southeast Asian countries visited the Philippines to showcase their talents in music. The artists said they enjoyed their stay in the Philippines and socializing with Filipinos.
They are so friendly for us, and I feel so very comfortable to come here, very so happy.
People is friendly, the food is masarap.
The artists also did not miss the chance to perform in the country's only FM station on wheels, the Wish FM bus. Wish FM was among the partners of the ASEAN Music Festival. For the first time, Myanmar singer Ain't Chit sang her first English original composition entitled Crazy.
I go crazy, crazy. Hey boy, I go crazy, crazy.
It's really exciting to be here, you know. This kind of bus, it's not in my country, so this is the very first experience of my life. You know, everyone's listening from, you know, on the side, and it's singing live and it's recorded live.
Indonesian duo Mia Ismi Halida and Keldar Mawel also performed their first single in Bahasa.
Hanya bahasa yang luluhkan hati semua orang, bukan hanya rasa yang sekedar menyejukkan.
Before visiting the Philippines, the duo is already well aware of the Wish FM bus. The duo said Indonesians watch Wish bus performances on YouTube. They are amazed by the concept of the Wish bus.
This is definitely like very, very smart. The idea of, you know, having a radio in a bus, like who can thought about it? And you know, like people can see, and because, you know, in our country we have a lot of traffic jam too. I think it's an ASEAN problem somehow. So you know, because of this, you can even enjoy while in traffic.
Because of their happy experience, the foreign artists say they would visit the Philippines again after the ASEAN Summit. Leslie Lomboan, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
British tourists were able to take a glimpse of what the Philippines has to offer during the 7-day World Travel Market in London. Here's why from Jovic Bermas.
A variety of native Filipino delicacies, an array of Filipino products, plus songs and dances that are truly Filipino were offered at the World Travel Market held inside the UK's largest mall, the London Westfield. Though it's just a travel expo, tourists are fascinated with the beauty of the Philippines.
It just pulls me back. It pulled me back today. As I say, I'm here for a few more hours and have a look around, taste the food, and maybe have a sample of some of that drink over there by the bar.
A London-based travel blogger couldn't contain his excitement as he admits being captivated by the beauty of the Philippines. He says he already have a flight ticket back.
It's the most amazing country that I've ever been to. Philippines was the last country I ended up in and absolutely loved it. It's the best place I went to by far. I'm coming back, yes. So, 29th of November, I'm flying back out.
Joining the World Travel Market is DOT's way to create partnerships with travel agents to promote the Philippines as among the top holiday destinations for Europeans. DOT believes London represents Europe because UK is the biggest source of not only tourist arrivals but also for overseas remittances in Europe. That's why also in the event, DOT launched its reactivated Bring Home a Friend campaign.
The idea is simple. Tap all our overseas Filipinos as our global ambassadors. The main objective is to invite all our British and European friends, colleagues, and extended relatives to travel to the Philippines, wherein we give big prizes, both for our guests and for the for those who will be nominating our kababayan in Europe.
Meanwhile, Assistant Secretary Ricky Alegre of the Department of Tourism is confident that the event will help increase European tourist arrivals in the Philippines not only this holiday season, but whole year round.
We feel that the tourism industry, despite the many challenges that we have faced in the past 4, 5, 6 months, continues to grow. The booth alone that we have put up is another show of confidence of the market here in London and in Europe. Expect this to even grow bigger in 2018.
Jovic Burmas, UNTV News and Rescue, London, United Kingdom.
Those are the reasons behind the news, November 15, 2017. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm William Theo.
And I'm Darlene Basingan, because we need to know.
We will always ask why. Thank you for watching
Why News.